Hey guys, Nick here. Welcome to the omniverse of Nick's next Marvel story, one-parter, What If Crossbones Turned Good? With all that said, before we begin, be sure to smash the like button and subscribe to the omniverse of Nick, and check out the About tab and homepage so you can see everything that the omniverse has to offer. With all that said, let's get started. So, Crossbones' actual name is Brock Rumlow, and he was introduced to us in Captain America the Winter Soldier, where he was actually, in secret, an agent for Hydra, and he turned on Cap, but ended up getting basically a whole building just toppled on him and was seemingly dead. But in Captain America Civil War, he would make a comeback as Crossbones for all about like not even a half of a movie, and would honestly be one of the sickest designs and fights that I would say against Captain America before Mjolnir that we had seen. But he would try to kill himself, and then Scarlet Witch would throw him into a building, and then he blew himself up. So it leaves the question, what if Crossbones didn't try to do that? What if something better was made of him? And what if we actually just got more of Crossbones, and not only just him being a reoccurring character, but him turning good? So we would actually get to see him as Crossbones with more vast potential. So, with all that said, even though this is a one part, let's see what would happen and begin. We open up with Cap fighting Crossbones, and he actually proves to give Cap a run for his money, but he eventually unmasks and beats him as Brock Rumlow, who survived. And instead of letting him even get the chance to blow himself up or Scarlet Witch do anything, Cap sees it way faster than Scarlet Witch can, and faster than Rumlow can even push the button, and he knocks him down to the ground and out cold with his shield. He says, "You're not going to do that. You're not getting out of this easy, or trying to become a martyr, or try to ruin us, or put my friend Bucky's name in front of me like it's a trophy to you. We're going to press your brain for everything that you know. You're coming with us." So, Scarlet Witch is not going to throw him into the building, blowing it up. Instead, Brock Rumlow, as Crossbones, is imprisoned, and he is going to be interrogated heavily for Bucky. And Cap says he will see to that personally. And Cap demands to know, what did you mean by Bucky and putting his brain back in the blender? Tell me everything you know. You have nothing left. You can't hurt yourself. You can't hurt us. And Bucky, tell us everything. So, Rumlow basically, with nothing else to lose and nothing to gain, he just goes on the whole spiel about how Bucky survived and how he was the greatest Winter Soldier out of all of them. Even him, after he survived. And honestly, he didn't think it was him at the time. And after getting the building thrown on him, Cap pretty much thought he had it all planned out, didn't he? Well, that's where he'd be wrong. Bucky, the Winter Soldier, hasn't left him. He's going to keep doing what he has done for years and years and years, especially while Cap was all snug as a bug in the ice. He's going to keep on killing for Hydra. And Cap knows they got to find Bucky. The Sokovia Accords are still a thing, and T'Challa's father is still killed by Bucky, who, him, Cap, and Bucky himself, all three of them, including Falcon, they all have their encounter on the highway, including Bucky's escape plan and that whole fight and everything like that. all leads up the same. And Cap knows at this point there's one thing left that they can do. And he looks to Falcon and says, they got no choice. So after finally getting to Bucky's head, they make a stop. Because Cap has a message and an offer for Brock. He says that he will let him free if he helps Cap's team to stop Tony's from tearing the Avengers apart and trying to stop Hydra in its entirety. So Crossbones joins Team Cap against Team Iron Man. And it still leads to Rhodey getting injured, which obviously sets up the whole Skrull thing. That's still a mind blower. Spider-Man actually gets more injured here because there's an extra hand. And then we get to the very end. Crossbones, Bucky, and Cap. 3 freaking super soldiers. You thought that 2 against Tony was something. You got 3. So this means that Tony has his hands even more full than before. And with Crossbones actually utilizing more of like how he fought and his blades and his like punches and everything, how hard they were, this is actually pretty freaking rough for Tony. And actually gets Bucky in for a very much so more stronger metal punch to try to finish him and tear his chest apart. But before Iron Man can use the Unibeam, Crossbones, Brock, he sees the Unibeam. He sees the chest about to like burst, and he knows about Tony Stark. So, without thinking anything, he shoves Bucky out of the way, and Iron Man Unibeams Brock straight in the heart. So, it's ironic. Tony's life that comes from his chest that powered the Unibeam went through somebody else's chest / heart to kill him, sacrificing himself for Bucky. And then together, Bucky and Cap shove the shield into Tony's chest. And whenever Tony tries to say about the shield, Cap says, "You have no right to demand anything. You have no right to be anything, and you're just what I saw you for all along, Tony. You would never let the other guy crawl over you. You really would cut the wire. Everything you said and shown was true. You're no hero. You pretended to be a hero. Man in a suit got everybody else all locked up. You even brought a kid into it. You are a disgrace." And honestly, Cap really regrets himself for saying this. I'm glad your parents aren't here. Not because I'm glad that Bucky killed them, but because they would be ashamed of the person that you are. The shield doesn't belong to you. It belongs to someone who carries Hero on his back. Even if I am out of my time. You're done with yours. The time for Iron Man is over. And Cap and Bucky, mourning the loss of a better Crossbones, walk out together. Much less injured, but far more angry. Tony just sits there, thinking about what he's done, and thinking about how angry he is at Cap now. Furious, even, and much more crippled. And he has a lot to think about. Now, on his way out, he is stopped. He is shot bunches of times in all parts of his body. And the person who did it, the Punisher, John Bernthal. And the Punisher just begins to walk towards him with his gun and says, "Are you glad You glad about what you've done there, Tony? Man, you really shouldn't have killed Crossbones. Good old Brocky. You also shouldn't have messed with 3 super soldiers. Worst yet, you shouldn't have messed with the Punisher. And Tony is shot mercilessly to the death. But this was a big mistake. Because of Crossbones being a better person, sacrificing himself, and Tony killing him, leading to a much more vengeful, like, Cap, Bucky, and Tony, and the arrival for the first time on the Omniverse and in general, the Punisher. This was a bad ending. Because without Iron Man, true, you got Ant-Man, but without Iron Man, the main one to help with the whole, like, end game, Thanos gets his wish. He snaps all of reality. And he ultimately gets the utopia that he always sought for. And this just goes to show, just because a character redeems himself doesn't always mean that the story that it's going for is good. So, we end Crossbones' redemption arc, and honestly, different approach in the MCU for the first time in a kind of, how'd you say it, weird and just out of nowhere part, right? Well, I wasn't intending this to be a long story. This was just, like many others that I introduce and then I later dive into and give a bunch of love, a way to give a character that I feel deserved more attention. Just that. His only main stories connected with Cap, Bucky, and by extension, Sam or Falcon. And like Black Widow and Hawkeye, and lining up with Cap and Bucky and everything, Cap besides Milner, obviously, he was only going to be as good as what was given to him. Because Crossbones was never going to be something that evolved beyond, for example, Tony. So, I more or less came up with the option that if I wasn't going to do something huge with him, that I would in turn do something completely out of the blue with him. So, that's why he sacrificed himself. And honestly, I feel that that is a much more different end. People's redemption sometimes, and stories, don't have to be huge for them to be appreciated. And I feel that you guys can probably think and say that this at least was more put on for Crossbones than what he had gotten in the MCU. And it also left Cap and Bucky looking down on Tony forever, because he killed someone that they actually were beginning to like. He killed someone right in front of their faces and didn't actually, for one, mean to, most likely, depending on how he would feel about Crossbones, and Bucky was not targeted at the arm and full-on injured like he was, leaving Cap to not want to get rid of the shield and looking down on Tony just like Bucky and everybody else. And you might wonder why I also included another new character in the Omniverse, Frank Castle, the Punisher. It's because, not just because of their uniforms, but because of a deeper meaning for Frank Castle and the connection to the Winter Soldiers. This was my way of putting in Frank Castle, the Punisher, into the Omniverse by connecting him more with Crossbones. Whether it be a story where they actually were you know, brothers, or Frank Castle was part of the Winter Soldier program or Hydra. And then there wouldn't even be enough time to dive into a complete story before Thanos, without Iron Man there to think of the time machine. Ant-Man, he most likely still would come up with something, but without Iron Man there at the helm, and Iron Man dying many movies earlier, this means that even if somehow, someway they got past Thanos, nothing would ever bring them anywhere close to afterwards, in my opinion. So, even though Crossbones' reintroduction, redemption, and story was better here, and it served a purpose for his character, and it brought in a new character like Frank Castle, the Punisher, ultimately, it turned to be a dark ending, proving sometimes that just because a character turns good or gets a chance does not mean that it's actually going to be a happy ending, especially for ones that are closely impacted or newly brought in, like the Punisher. So, with that said, this most likely is the last time you see Crossbones, but also not. If you guys want to see me do something with Frank Castle and Crossbones as a separate thing from the story to truly immerse Frank Castle into the MCU in a different way, where he's already been introduced with Daredevil and how he's going to be in Spider-Man Brand New Day, let me know, but it's highly unlikely because I plan on saving Frank Castle for other things later down the line. Especially if it wasn't teased already what I do in the channel of bringing in new characters and giving them love. But I definitely want to introduce them first, so it actually gives you guys an idea of what to possibly expect me doing with them. So, for Crossbones' future, don't know yet. Castle's, though, he's definitely going to be explored a heck of a ton more. Especially with him also having a Shane character, John Bernthal, and all of that. You can expect a lot more from Frank Castle. But as for this, I hope you guys at least liked this adaptation of Crossbones turning good and surviving. Even if it was a sacrificial, turned very dark, turned very bad ending. I hope that you guys get, understand, and ultimately appreciate what was done here. So with that said, I will see you guys next time. And I hope you guys liked this Crossbones story turning good for the Omniverse.